Tuesday, February 24th, for the SELCO monthly meeting. We're a little bit discombobulated this morning. SMC support is not readily available, but we would like to still try to record the meeting so that the public will be able to see it at a later time. So we're doing this by recording our Google in Google. So with that said, everyone be aware that we are live here at the town hall, and we will go ahead with the meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is review and consider the approval of the January 2026 bill schedules and warrants. Do we have any questions or concerns about the warrants? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the warrants as schedules? So moved. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is review and consider approval of meeting minutes of January 27th, 2026. Any questions or comments about the minutes? Let's see anything this time. Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next thing, which is, and most importantly, one of the most important things that we've got going today is the presentation of the cable satisfaction survey results with Great Blue Research. Great Blue is reaching out to us via the internet today. So with that, I will turn that over to you, Mr. Roy, if you want to make any introductions. I don't know in particular. Or...
Sure, if I may, I'll pass the baton to Ashley because that's her team's work. Survey.
Are you ready for us to get started? Sorry.
No, that's all right. Are you ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Okay. The floor is yours.
All right. All right, great. Yeah, thank you so much for having us virtually. We wish we could have been there in person, but the Mother Nature didn't cooperate this time around, so maybe next time. But we're happy to share the results of our 2025 broadband and stream customer survey. Can
you just introduce who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Catherine Volmer. Actually, it's Google showing up with my maiden name, but I'm one of the project managers here at Great Blue. And then my colleague Sophia is joining as well, and she is one of our research analysts. And we were the two who primarily worked on this year's survey. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of an overview about the survey. So we conduct this survey every couple of years, and it's really just kind of gauging how do customers feel about SELCO's broadband services. And we know that there's been some shifts over the past couple of years of what the broadband services entail, where we have, our legacy, more cable customers versus, having our SELCO stream customers. And so this year was really our first year of evaluating how that SELCO stream service is going. We also have some questions specific to internet service and usage as well. So with that, I will dive right in. So our research methodology. So we used an entirely digital survey methodology to conduct this year's survey. In total, we had 690 customers complete the survey, which is great. We're always aiming for at least 400 surveys because that'll get us a margin of error right below 5%, which is, in the world of marketing research, what you should be aiming for to be able to, make statistically reliable predictions about the data. So in this case, we had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.61%, which means that if we were going to go and ask every single SELCO stream, every single internet customer, their opinions about these different topics that were covered in the survey, the results of that kind of census style approach would come back somewhere within plus or minus 3.61 percentage points of the results that I'm sharing with you all today. And we conducted this research at the tail end of 2025, started in mid-November, and then wrapped things up in mid-December, right before Christmas. So our demographic profile of our respondents. So as you see, top left corner, age definitely leaned older despite us doing this survey entirely digitally. We definitely had a lot more customers in kind of the 55 years or older category versus under 55 years of age. So definitely something to keep in mind as you're viewing some of these results as well. Type of dwelling, a lot of single family homeowners, which we expect to see about 75%. Length of residency, a lot of longer term residents as well, kind of coincides well with the age of the respondents as well. We had a lot of folks who were in the community for 30 years or more, or 25 to less than 30 years as well. Over 80% of our respondents were homeowners compared to about 13% were renters. And looking at the income breakdown of respondents, pretty good variety across the board. We have a lot of folks who said prefer not to say. That's very normal. Usually we see somewhere within 30 to 40% of customers don't like to provide their income. So that number is not out of the ordinary. So getting into our key study findings, I'm going to skip over this page because it's just a lot of bullet points with a lot of findings that we're going to cover on some more of the charts and graphs type slides throughout the presentation. But this is a really good page. If you only have a couple minutes to look at the report, we recommend flipping to this page to get kind of that high level overview. But with that, I'm going to head right into the report and our rating the utility section. So this page, we're really looking at some of our organizational characteristics when it comes to SELCO's broadband service. And as you see, we have comparison points to our 2021 survey as well, which was the last time we conducted this survey. And the big caveat here is that, as I mentioned before, a lot has changed since 2021, specifically within SELCO's broadband services. And so we know that, these questions are really aimed at asking about the legacy cable service in 2021, whereas now in 2025 the wording's changed and they're asking about the SELCO stream service. So you're kind of looking at two different programs as a whole, and so that's just a big caveat to look at when you're looking at this data. Overall, the average rating was a 66.9%, and it was really brought down by those ratings for the rates for streaming service and the quality and reliability of streaming service compared to what we saw in 2021. Still seeing really positive ratings when it comes to the helpful and knowledgeable staff communicating with customers. So all of the customer service metrics are still receiving really strong ratings, and we're still seeing really strong ratings for internet service as well. So looking at how the quality of service has changed, so we asked about how things have changed over the past year. And what we saw is that just over half of customers feel like there's been no change in the quality of their service and everything remains good. But that was a decline from what we saw in 2021. What we saw instead was that more customers said that their quality of service has worsened over the last year compared to this time last year. We looked at this change in quality of service broken out by the specific services that customers receive from SELCO broadband. And overall, as you can see, those who feel like their quality of service has worsened, it's a lot more of the folks who have SELCO stream customers versus those who are internet or phone customers. So you're really seeing that SELCO stream is what's kind of swaying a lot of these ratings compared to what we saw in 2021. So looking at customer service, as I mentioned, this is still continuing to be one of the strong suits of SELCO, as we see on the electric side as well. Really strong ratings when it comes to rating your satisfaction with the different customer service groups. Over 90% positive ratings for field representatives, the help desk technical support, and customer service. So really strong ratings across the board. We also ask customers if they've ever had any kind of a TV or internet issue, what that response time has looked like for SELCO resolving those issues. Overall, over 3/4 are satisfied with how that issue resolution has gone. So really strong ratings, and important to note too that of those 76.4%, a lot of them were very satisfied customers. Almost half were very satisfied customers. So really strong ratings when it comes to customer service and issue resolution of customer issues. So looking at the website and online tools, we asked about overall how helpful customers feel like SELCO's website and online tools are, things like the FAQ section, troubleshooting guidelines, etc., how helpful they are for them as customers. And overall, about 80% of customers find them either very or somewhat helpful. We asked also about how customers prefer to interact with technical support when they do have an issue and need support. And overall, most customers still continue to want to, pick up the phone and call technical support. About 75% of customers. We do have some other customers though that would rather do this digitally through email instead. So product and service communication, specifically when it comes to receiving information about products and services from SELCO, most folks want this information through email, about 2/3. We also have a lot of customers who want to go to the website and see this information, about 30%, and then some others who prefer more traditional methods like newsletters and bill insert communication as well. When it comes to actually ordering products and services from SELCO, similar trends to what we saw in 2021. We continue to see a lot of folks would rather just speak with a representative over the phone to make that transaction. And then, you see about 1/3 of customers would rather complete that transaction online. So getting into the customer experience with SELCO Stream TV specifically. So we asked about overall satisfaction with your current TV package. Overall, just over 3/5 of customers are very or somewhat satisfied with the current SELCO Stream TV package. And then we asked about how satisfied they are with the channels and the content and the variety of that channel selection included in the SELCO Stream TV package. Stronger ratings here, we saw over 80% were very or somewhat satisfied with the channels and content that are included in the package. And then we also asked about how satisfied customers are with the cloud DVR recording and on-demand features that are included in their SELCO Stream package. Overall, just under 3/4, 72.2% were very or somewhat satisfied. So pretty strong ratings when it comes to the actual channels and the variety of the selection of what's offered within the SELCO Stream TV package, as well as those on-demand features. But overall satisfaction with the current TV package is a little bit lower, and that's likely being swayed by ratings for things like the rates that customers are paying, as well as just the reliability of service, some of those metrics we saw in that first presentation. So looking at the overall value of the television service for the price paid, so this is where we see some of those ratings again. Just over 1/3 of customers feel like they're getting either an excellent or good value for the price they pay for their SELCO Stream TV package, whereas a lot of customers fall into that category of it's a fair value or a poor value. And so that's what's driving down some of those SELCO Stream TV ratings. We looked at the importance of SELCO continuing to offer video products moving forward, and we still see that about 2/3 of customers find it important that SELCO continues to have these video products available for customers. So despite some of the shifts in ratings compared to what we saw in 2021, we still see that this is a really important thing that customers want the utility to continue to offer moving forward. And we asked about the likelihood of customers, keeping their SELCO Stream TV subscription moving forward or canceling and switching to another option. Overall, most folks don't have any plans to cancel their TV subscription in the next year. That did decline, though, a little bit compared to what we saw in 2021. So now we're seeing about 3/5 of customers do not have plans to cancel their TV subscription, whereas the shift is that we have almost 1/4 of customers now, 22.5%, who said that they're maybe considering canceling their SELCO TV subscription, and that was an increase over 2021. So if folks did decide to cancel, the most common alternative would be watching broadcast via an antenna and over-the-top programming like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, etc., which is similar to what we saw in 2021 as well. So reasons to keep your TV service. So this was really interesting. We asked folks who said that they're planning on keeping their SELCO Stream TV service to kind of elaborate on why they would. And really the top reason is that folks like that SELCO's profits are being reinvested into the town rather than going to private shareholders. So they like that kind of community-owned utility model. There's also a lot of folks who prefer having their TV and internet service bundled with one provider. So we see that that's really important for a lot of customers. And then also appreciating SELCO's local help desk and customer service support versus using a bigger company and maybe not getting the same level of support that you would get through SELCO. So we see customer service is really a differentiator, and that kind of local owned utility is also a differentiator, as well as just the desire to kind of keep your TV and internet together as one. So the likelihood to recommend SELCO Stream TV moving forward. So just under half of customers said that they would be likely to recommend others use SELCO Stream TV moving forward. However, we did have about 30% who said they were not likely to. So, there's still a lot of customers who have positive perceptions, but we do see that there's some kind of negative perceptions creeping in those customers that aren't likely to recommend the service moving forward. So looking at the customer experience when it comes to SELCO internet service, so pretty strong ratings here across the board. We saw that about 90% of customers are overall satisfied with SELCO's internet service, which was a slight increase over what we saw in 2021. We also saw that the same frequency, 90.6%, feel like SELCO's internet speeds meet the needs of their household either very or somewhat well, with almost 3/5 of those saying it's very well. So really strong satisfaction ratings when it comes to SELCO's internet service, which is similar to what we've seen in the past. We asked about overall awareness of SELCO's Wi-Fi products. So first and foremost, just awareness of SELCO's Wi-Fi overall. About 80% of customers were very or somewhat aware that of SELCO's Wi-Fi product. And then we asked this year about SELCO's mesh Wi-Fi product, and a lower percentage of customers, but still over half, were either very or somewhat aware of SELCO's mesh Wi-Fi product. We also asked how aware customers are that SELCO's Wi-Fi product allows help desk to be able to remotely tune in to be able to troubleshoot issues, as part of that Wi-Fi product. And overall, over 3/5 of customers were aware of this added capability. And this was only asked to customers who were aware of SELCO's Wi-Fi product to begin with. And then looking at the mesh Wi-Fi product in more depth, we asked customers how likely they would be to sign up for SELCO's mesh Wi-Fi product in the future. And we removed those customers who said that they were already signed up for it. Overall, about a quarter of customers said that they're likely to sign up for mesh Wi-Fi moving forward. And some of the top reasons for not being likely to sign up were a lack of interest or not having a need to sign up, knowing that this is something that would improve internet speeds. There's a lot of customers who feel like they already have really good internet speeds and they don't need to be able to upgrade their Wi-Fi in this way. Again, no current issues with connectivity. It works. I'm satisfied. So no need to change, what you currently have if that's the case. So looking more at internet service, overall satisfaction with Wi-Fi coverage. So overall, just under 90% of customers, 87.9%, were very or somewhat satisfied with the current Wi-Fi coverage in their home, which is really good. We also asked about the overall likelihood to recommend SELCO's internet service, and stronger ratings here than what we saw for the SELCO Stream TV service. 3/4 of customers were likely to recommend SELCO's internet service to others, and that was a slight improvement over what we saw in 2021. So we looked at internet outages. We asked customers what they feel like is a reasonable amount of time to be without internet service if they do have an outage. A lot of customers said 30 minutes to less than an hour, so that's about 30% of customers feel like that's a reasonable amount of time to be without internet before their service is restored. Overall, most customers feel like it should be somewhere within the neighborhood of less than 15 minutes to up to an hour before their service is restored. So looking at streaming TV and internet as a whole, so we asked about the current streaming platforms that customers are subscribed to. We saw some significant increases in the number of streaming platforms that customers are subscribed to this year compared to what we saw in 2021, which is, I think, what we expected to see. But a lot more customers are subscribed to Amazon Prime and Netflix. Those are really the top two that most customers have. Hulu saw a slight increase as well. Disney Plus saw a significant increase, and then we added a bunch of different answer options here for Apple TV, HBO Max, and Paramount Plus, which we didn't have in our 2021 survey. We also asked customers if their streaming services that they use, if they currently include live TV channels. We also saw a big shift here where now over half of customers have live TV channels offered as part of their current streaming platforms compared to about 41.3% in 2021. So more on streaming devices, we asked customers what devices they're currently using to stream their TV content. Most customers are streaming content through the TV through apps on their TV. That percentage did decline a little bit since 2021, and we added an answer option in this year for the SELCO Evo box that we didn't have in 2021, and so we did see that about 15% of customers are streaming their content through that platform instead of their TV. Number of devices connected to home internet. So what we're seeing is that most folks have 4 or more devices at their home that are connected to the internet. So, when we talk about things like internet reliability and the strong ratings that internet service is receiving, we see that there's a lot of customers that are really relying on it for a lot of their devices in their house. So getting into future programs and services. So we asked about the overall importance of bundled service offerings. We did see earlier in the survey that when we asked about, the likelihood to, cancel SELCO Stream TV service and some of the reasons for keeping it, bundling services, TV with internet was really one of the primary reasons why folks wanted to keep their SELCO Stream TV service. And so what we saw here kind of resonates with that as well. About 3/5 of customers feel like it's very or somewhat important for SELCO to keep bundling services, internet, TV, and phone together versus having to use separate providers for those different services. And we asked about the preferred priorities for SELCO when it comes to balancing TV streaming service and internet speeds. And almost half of customers feel like both TV streaming service and internet speeds are equally important. But we did see that about a third feel like enhanced internet speeds are more important than TV streaming service. So obviously most people want both to be performing really well. But if you had to pick, there's a slight favorability for just having those enhanced internet speeds over the streaming TV service. So more on SELCO services. So we asked about overall awareness of that SELCO's Wi-Fi product allows the ability to control your home networks through a device as part of that Wi-Fi package. Overall, almost half of customers were aware of this feature. We also asked about how important it is that SELCO offer additional smart home support through SELCO. Or through their SELCO TV package. And overall, over half of customers do find this important. So it's kind of split between customers. There's a lot of customers that don't find the smart home support to be as important as others. And we really see that in the likelihood to sign up for smart home services through SELCO. Only about a quarter of customers were likely to sign up for these smart home services. This is something that's likely kind of swayed by the age of the respondents in the survey as well. We tend to see that the smart home services are a lot more favorable with the younger customer base. So with a lot of the customers in the survey being 55 or older, that does, probably have an influence on a question like this when we're looking at, smart home technology. So wrapping up with a couple of considerations based on the findings today. So we have kind of one that's focused on SELCO Stream TV, and then one that's focused more on internet service offerings moving forward. And so, what we saw, and again, the question wording did shift a lot since the last survey because the service itself has shifted since the last survey. So something to keep in mind, but the SELCO Stream TV ratings this time around were lower than what we've seen in the past when it comes to cable TV. And so a lot of what drove that was kind of the overall cost of the service for the value received for that price, the reliability and quality of the service, whereas the customer service ratings continue to be really high. So that continues to be kind of a driver of higher satisfaction ratings. Some of our insights were focusing on kind of reviewing the streaming reliability and performance and identifying any issues that customers might be pulling out in this survey. Evaluating the Stream TV pricing and package, making sure that remains competitive when it comes to other alternative options that customers might be pursuing down the road. Continue to communicate to customers SELCO's efforts to continue to deliver strong performance and improve that SELCO Stream TV platform. Knowing it's a relatively new service for a lot of customers, there's obviously some customers that don't necessarily like adjusting to something that's new. So that's always a factor that kind of comes into, anytime you're introducing a new product or service, there's always going to be people who don't like the change because they don't see why there was a need for a change. So something to kind of communicate moving forward when it comes to marketing and communication efforts, and then continuing to promote educational materials of detailing the new stream model so that folks who are less familiar have all the kind of knowledge of its functionality and capabilities moving forward. And then looking at internet performance, we continue to see really strong satisfaction ratings when it comes to SELCO's internet performance. Where we saw kind of lower ratings was just in kind of the levels of awareness of some of the add-on services that are offered as part of the internet package. So some of our kind of recommendations were surrounding simplifying and clarifying messaging around mesh Wi-Fi and its benefits so that folks understand that concept a little bit more, because that's where awareness was a little bit lower. Using some of the high internet satisfaction recommendation scores in marketing and promotion materials to really promote the reliability and quality of the internet service. Integrating mesh Wi-Fi and smart home offerings into kind of bundled service packages, because we see that there's a lot of customers that find those bundled services to be really beneficial. Having targeted educational campaigns for customers who might be unsure of what the mesh Wi-Fi service offering is, and then highlighting some of that kind of smart home and security and device protection kind of language in some of those communication materials so that customers know, again, how to take full advantage of the services they're probably already receiving. So that kind of wraps up everything we had, and this is just a little bit about Great Blue and the folks on our team who were involved in this year's survey, but happy to open things up to questions at this point.
I'm going to add 3 points to this. One was, if you remember, right before this, we had gone through almost 3 weeks of outages. So there was a bunch of things happening there.
Right.
During this, we've released
Internet outages or streaming outages?
Streaming outages. Internet was fine.
Yeah.
So you get the people upset with that. We also sent out the rate increase for streaming TV during this. Sent out 30 days prior. And one of the I guess the biggest thing is you tend to see people are perceiving the cost of stream being higher than legacy because legacy took place in 2021. Legacy's cost would have gone up too.
Right.
So like, there's a lot of things that people are comparing it to that may have skewed this a little bit, I guess, a little bit worse, specifically because of the outage that happened, the rate increase, and you're comparing it to a product that was cheaper. Now, I will say the reason, one of the good things is when we switched to Stream, we were able to keep the pricing the same for the last 3 years. So that wouldn't have been the case with Legacy. So people are kind of not seeing the whole picture, but I just wanted to give those little points.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, plus, when you say you're comparing data for 21 to 24, the 21 survey, most people still had cable, right, rather than streaming. So when
Yeah,
you say
streaming
it's
didn't
streaming,
exist until 23.
We're still, actually, that's an evaluation of what the old cable system was, which they were comfortable with, and they didn't have to learn. And it just kind of was there.
Yep.
And so with over 3 years, 4 years of the survey change is that now we've gone to streaming, and it is something new. And I agree with you that the lack of better words, the blue circle of death that appeared quite frequently last year, which I think we've nipped in the bud pretty well.
Yep.
But we'll have to wait another 4 years, I guess, to see how that, to see.
2 years. We'll have it a little faster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
So just looking at some of the data, I don't know. I'm speaking to the screen, maybe.
Yeah.
So, trying to just understand, so comparing to, we are obviously comparing to the past. I'm looking at, a couple of the numbers kind of behind the scenes. How many, I guess my first question is, how many total customers do we have? We have 690 respondents. 70% of them were over the age of 55.
Yeah.
We just did a huge transition to a new technology. Not stereotyping anything, but I think we can, kind of draw sort of a conclusion. I find it, I fall under that tier, and I shamefully did not fill out the survey because I didn't know about it. So I apologize. So I'm just trying to just better understand that. And is there a corollary, or is there did we see a similar response, demographic response in 2021 as we did now?
I'll let Catherine answer the response in 21 because I don't remember. But I will say we have just under 4,000 Stream subscribers right now.
Okay, so we're what's that, like 17% response?
Yeah, a little bit higher than that, but yeah,
18%.
yeah.
We had 600. She said it was about 15%, or
Yeah.
that comes out to be about 15%.
Yeah. I would say,
690 almost.
yeah, 700 almost. Yeah. So it's going to be right around there, but that's what we have now. But in comparison, we have almost 15,000 internet subs.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll have to dive a little bit more into what we had in 2021. I do know that it was definitely leaning that direction. I don't know if it was quite the extent that we saw this time around, but I do know that when we did our electric customer satisfaction survey in 2024, we did see a similar breakdown where we saw a lot more 55 plus customers compared to those younger customers. So it is a trend that we've been seeing in a lot of our surveys that are very similar to this one in nature. But yeah, I can get some of those 2021 data points. So I'm not speaking out of term, but
Sorry, Catherine. I looked at it and we did lean older in 2021. We had 42% in the 65 or older category.
thank you, Sophie.
Well, how do you get, people just don't have time.
Well, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
How, that's who you're getting is who has time to fill this out.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's
yeah, even paying attention.
How do you,
You know?
We actively try, we market it to everyone.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you do. I'm just saying of the people that are going to respond.
Yeah.
Going to be somebody who has more time,
Yeah.
And doesn't, isn't bombarded with, on a regular, on a daily basis, right? So,
Right.
I don't know how you get that younger demographic to respond and to see what they're thinking in regard to the service.
I have some ideas that we'll talk with Breakthrough on. A lot of the newer companies, you probably see them now, they'll give like $5 or $10 gift cards for you to fill out a survey. There's something like that where you then get younger responses because if they're like, oh, all right, I get paid to do this, I'll fill it out. So there's some stuff like that that we can potentially do, but we'll that'll be in the next survey for Great Blue is we're gonna try to get younger responses.
What a credit on you now.
Credit on your bill, yeah, we could do something like that. Absolutely.
I have a great blue question. Have you ever done an analysis, like some kind of statistical analysis of trying, and I don't know if we have this data to be able to do it, but understanding our average, looking at our client age and, across that spectrum, look at the population of how many customers fall within each category and just look at the general percentage response of what we did get and then apply that to the overall thing, just to kind of maybe paint a picture of like, hey, generally speaking, our 25 to 35-year-olds are pretty pleased. They're just, just try to.
Right. Yeah, we've done that before with other utility companies. We did one in particular in California, in like Southern California area, where they were really hoping to be able to kind of balance their response rates out across the different age groups. And in their case, they have a lot more like renter customers and they have a lot more younger customers. So it was really pertinent that we're capturing those folks. And what we actually did was they have their customer list is broken out into like they list the date of birth of all of their customers. So we were able to take that list and really group people into like different age brackets. So that way, when we actually targeted people for the survey, we were reaching out to a certain percentage of customers based on trying to hit different like quotas that were really soft quotas by age, because we never like to have hard quotas where we're terminating people based on their age, because we just don't want to get into that. But, having those kind of soft quotas, we're able to see, hey, well, let's reach out to, a higher percentage of customers that are 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, et cetera, to try to really get those younger customers, and then, reach out to a smaller percentage of older customers. And then with that kind of approach, you're able to see kind of in the back end, okay, we ended up with this many customers who are in this age group, and this is how many total we have. So we can say, hey, we reached X percent of your customers in this age group. We reached X percent in this age group. So that's always an approach we can have. All we need on our end is just knowing what the age of customers is so that we're able to kind of have that targeted approach. It's still not a guaranteed way of getting younger customers, but it is a way of just making sure that, hey, we're reaching out to more younger customers versus older customers. So that's, we're doing our best to at least get, some more of that younger customer base.
I was amazed at how many houses have 10 or more connections to the internet.
I just counted mine. It's a gross number.
Yeah. I know. Same boat.
Oh, yeah.
Ring cameras.
I am well over
Yeah.
20.
Yeah. Okay. Guess I'm an analog guy in the digital world.
I just had one to your point, also something I think relates to your question is also comparing that. Like I would find it curious to your question about number of subscribers. So we have 4,000 video subs. We have 14,000 internet subs. So are those, that differential, are those folks under 55? Like, how is that?
Yeah.
Option to not, like our cord cutters, how does that impact?
Wildly generational. I watch my kids. My kids think it's the craziest thing in the world that I turn on the TV. Like, and oh, nothing's on. They're like, what do you mean nothing's on? Right?
Yeah.
So I think there is this monumental shift going on there. Yeah.
One thing I try,
Yeah.
Okay, so our way ahead is we think that one of the biggest things that we have is, I guess, getting the satisfaction of the actual streaming where it's reliable, of which, like you said, we had several instances last year, not just during the survey, where the streaming failed, and we worked diligently, I think, to work with the provider to make sure we had alternative paths for the information to come in and the actual, connectivity of it.
Yeah, we have this year is gonna be a very good year, I think, for us anyway, because we've been working with all the providers, even down to, there's a third-party provider that helps us do the ad insertion, which was, causing some of the issues. They're working on their system. We're getting everyone on board, so we get rid of the blue circle of death. We're working on changing, how it comes to you. So like it wouldn't need to take a direct path from Chicago to here. It could go anywhere before it gets to you. So all those changes that will happen in 26 will just make it more resilient. You'll see it, and you've seen it already. If you really paid attention since the November changeover, when we fixed a couple of the issues that popped up in the last few months, I'll knock on one. It has been absolutely solid. It's been really, really good.
How about, are we adversely affected by, let's say, Fire Stick having a technical issue with the upgrade? They've changed their models. Does that affect us, where all of a sudden it looks like SELCO stream's not working, but it's in fact,
You are at, it's just like your computers or anything else, stuff gets older. So if somebody's on an older Fire Stick or anything like that, the hardware does play a little bit of a role. We try to make sure everything is vetted before we bring it out to the, into the app store for when it gets back to you guys. We test everything. So yes, it does play a role, but it's better than it's been.
And another thing like that I've personally experienced, like anything, like computer, like phone, sometimes like it just gets glitchy. Right? You turn it on and you're like, oh, come on, Selco. Then you realize you just got to actually unplug your Fire Stick or TV or whatever and kind of give it all a little reboot. I bet there's a lot of that kind of layered in there too.
Yeah, and we're actively looking at, for the Evo boxes in general, we know that there's a life cycle on those too. So we know that we need to get a new version into the field. So we're actively looking at that, and that would be bring new hardware, all that stuff. That would be good.
So I have 3 different televisions using 3 different methodologies, Fire Stick and Evo box and whatever. And obviously they're not in phase where if I were to turn all the volumes up across the house, they're not, for some reason my bride beats me on Wheel of Fortune as to what the answer is.
It's not so much the hardware, it's the nature of the over the top streaming. I had the same, it was funny, I was watching, I was at a place in Westboro, a Red Heat Tavern, and they have streaming devices, and the game was on 2 different screens and both screens were off. Like it was like you could watch it like 3 seconds on one, 3 seconds on the other. And that's just the nature of the over the top. There's no way to sync it up because you're not delivering the same signal. It's got it has to cache some things all the time. So
Super Bowl Sunday, TVs with Fire Sticks, both have Fire Sticks.
Yeah.
There's probably a 3-second difference in the 2 TVs.
yeah.
So one room's like, yeah, like, whoa.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. And thank you to your provider for young ladies that presented. It was very nice.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Look forward to hearing from you in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. Next on the agenda is review and consider approval of the building procurement procedures, OIG Chapter 149 Alpha, building procurement procedures. A, to vote to authorize the general manager to enter into a construction manager at risk agreement. And also to vote to adopt an OIG procurement procedure. Okay, so I'll pass that on to you.
There's that. All right, we also have a guest for this as well. Well, I'll kick it off and introduce our student guest here. So as the building project continues its progression, one of the steps is to approve a procurement methodology to adhere to as we go into the next phase. So Chapter 149 is the Massachusetts general laws that dictate building procurements. And so Chapter 149A is a section within those procurement laws that enable us to approve these procurement, procedures that best suit our project. So what you'll see in the meeting materials is a memo and the procedures themselves that kind of outline why we're recommending the Chapter 149 process, as well as the procedures themselves. So I guess, I guess we'll go through and quickly summarize the recommendation, and then go through and answer any questions about the procedures. So if you want me to keep going, I can. This is the esteemed Mr. Tom Doolittle of Skanska.
Morning.
Do you want me to just sort of walk through this whole thing, or?
If you don't mind, I
Sure,
think that
yeah.
would be helpful.
So the question that we are talking about today is the use of a construction manager at risk procurement, which is the Chapter 149A regulations. There's basically two ways that we can award and construct a building. Just a general contract, which is a single lump sum bid. You send out the documents, you get bids back, and that's it. That's Chapter 149. The other is construction manager at risk, which is Chapter 149A, which is a slightly different process. You select the construction manager through a procedure similar to what we did with the designer selection. We first call for qualifications and create a short list. We then provide them a set of the documents, and they prepare a proposal, which is in part a technical proposal about how they would approach the project, including their staffing approach. And there is also some pricing information included in that, which would be their what are called general requirements and general conditions costs, which is basically the cost of their staffing, some of the equipment that will be used, some of the operations that they will be directly responsible for, and their fee. They work on a fee basis, which is a multiplier of the total construction cost, typically 2%, 2.5%, something like in that range. After we select the construction manager, then they go and procure all the different trade contractors that actually perform the work, and they oversee and manage those trade contractors. There's a little more detail to that we'll get into, but it's a different kind of approach. It allows us a little bit more flexibility in how we approach the project. And in this particular case, it provides us a benefit of being able to get onto the site and start some construction activities earlier than we could do with just a lump sum general contractor approach.
Procurement liability sort of remains the same to the design bid build.
Yes.
Yeah.
So under state law, the use of construction manager at risk requires the Office of the Inspector General to approve the awarding entity, the owner's application to use that construction method, or that procurement method. And what we're working on now is putting together that package of documents that we have to submit to the OIG to get that approval. And within that package is, first of all, this certificate that Chris will ultimately sign, saying that you, as the commission overseeing SELCO, approves the use of that construction method. And then there are a series of procedures that govern procurement of all of the construction manager entity itself, plus the procurement of the trade contractors and subcontractors, and some other operational requirements that we will have to go through as part of that project. So that's kind of an overview of what we're looking at today. And now if you want to, there's really two things that we need you to approve. First of all is the use of that construction procurement method, and then the second is the procedures. And so we can go through them in that order. If that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's what you see there was the one to authorize myself to fill out that certificate and the procedures themselves.
Now, in general, the town's done a couple of different constructions, the police station, Beal, the new Beal school. And would they do that construction at risk or?
Great question from Bob and Ed, and it was actually recommended we do the same. They thought that was a really good approach.
And this has been successful throughout the town.
We probably do 80% of the projects that we work with as CM at risk rather than general contractor lump sum bid. So
Yeah. And that's because you've also been certified to be, the client has been certified to be able to support that effort, right? That's what that's the first part here is we want to go. So we want to do this and have the OIG that say, okay, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Any questions on that first part?
and I think the memo outlines just the overall process and then sort of gets into some of the details of why it's appropriate for this project. And specifically, I think it's because we're looking at a kind of a phased construction, you would almost call it. We want to get on site and start some of the site activities very early. We've also decided as a cost measure to procure 2 of the buildings that would be built on the site, the warehouse for the material storage and the garage for the truck storage as pre-engineered metal buildings. And that requires some coordination. We're getting ready to get the procurement package for those buildings out. That's a separate approach. But once we get that, because we need that information to help the designers, because the designers are going to have to prepare the designs for the foundations and the utilities connecting to that building and so on and so forth. But once we get that contract procured under the construction manager's risk approach, it's very easy for us to just assign that contract to the CEM. And then they will be responsible for managing the actual installation of those buildings. So it's in this particular case, the scope of the project suggests strongly that we should go with the CM at risk rather than a GC.
Yeah. One other thing I thought I would just add is reiterate like the exhibits that are in the procedures, certified dog, all that gets submitted as part of the package to the OIG. And as far as I can tell, granted, I have not done a tremendous amount of building projects. They're fairly standard.
Yeah, the procedures basically are standardized documents that are applicable for most projects that are generic. We have gone through and made some adjustments for the specifics of this particular project scope. The CM at risk process, as I described previously, it's a 2-phase process of first qualifications, then a short list, and then a technical proposal. And we select based on that. And then the next procedure is for the what's called the GMP or guaranteed maximum price, which is under the CM process. It is a price that is established by the construction manager based on the documents and some of the contracting that they have probably done prior to completing submitting their GMP as a guarantee of what, assuming nothing changes in the project in terms of the scope, this is the most that SELCO will pay for the building when it's complete.
think that's an important point too.
Yes.
Put a cap on it.
It's a big difference being the general contractor approach is subject to change orders. And however many you could possibly come up with.
There is still the potential for change orders here,
Oh, for sure.
but largely more due to changes that come from either from the owner's side,
Right.
or if there's some issues with the documents in terms of missing or incomplete or inaccurate information. But the CM guarantees that assuming everything is perfect and we move straight forward, this is what's going to cost to build a building. So, and there's a whole procedure related to how we get to that number and how we approve it as part of the overall process. And then we have two sets of subcontractors that we will procure. First is what's called, in Massachusetts, we use a filed sub-bid process, which is for certain trades like electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and so on. Those are essentially publicly bid. We pre-qualify contractors in those trades. We submit the documents to them. They submit a price. And whoever is the low bidder for those through that process is essentially the selected trade contractor. There are some conditions to that, but in general, that's the way it works. So there's about, I think, 17 different trades in the 30 odd trades total in the construction of the building that are selected in that manner. The rest of them are subcontractor selections, which are managed by the CM directly. They are obligated to get at least 3 different prices from trade contractors or from subcontractors, and then submit those to the owner in combination with the owner, select which of those subcontractors will be awarded the project. But they have the ability to pick any of those any of those subcontractors. There's no pre-qualification. Generally, they're subcontractors that CM has worked with in the past and has good faith and trust that they will do an excellent job on board. But it's a slightly different process for two different sets of contractors working on it.
Okay, I think going forward, that the first step would be to vote to authorize the general manager to enter into a construction management and risk agreement. We've been provided a piece of paper here for certified vote. I'll just read what the motion would be. And that is to review and vote to authorize the general manager to enter on behalf of the awarding authority, SELCO, to enter into a contract with a construction manager at-risk firm and to perform all its obligations in connection with the project in accordance with the determination of appropriateness. So do I have a motion to approve that? So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. You know, the memo that we do have is can be updated with the 2 names of Liz and Maria. Great.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question on the procedure
Yes, sir.
before we vote? Just probably more of a curiosity than anything else. The pre-qualification committee that does the selection of the RFP process, is that in the submittal, the OIG, is there a requirement to submit names and position prior to, or is that something that's not?
No, we do not have to identify who that committee is. The state requires that for the CM selection, there has to be the owner, 1 representative of the OPM, that's me, 1 representative of the designer, and 3 representatives of the owner. But that's all it states. So, and we can decide those names at any point in time, up to the point where we release the RFQ. For the trade contractors, again, there's 1 representative from the OPM, 1 representative from the designer, 1 representative from the construction manager because they're on board at that point, and then 2 representatives from the owner. But we're mandated that we have to use that configuration as a minimum, but we do not have to identify those individuals at this point in time.
Okay. I think everyone's had a chance to take a look at what those procedures are. Is there any questions on those procedures? And if not, can I motion to adopt the Officer Inspector General procurement procedures?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, very good. I think our paperwork on that. You follow it, we'll stand up the formal document and get that done. Great. Thank you so much for coming up today.
Thank you.
Drive safely. Yeah, please go forward with it. Okay, the next is to review the GM highlights, the highlight of the every month meeting.
Appreciate that. Off my tabs here.
Okay.
All right, in today's GM highlights, legislative bits. I threw in while we didn't have any type of rate adjustment on our schedule. I did throw in some general industry rate information. So just put things in perspective, we did recently vote in those electric rate adjustments here. It just contrasts what we don't do. We didn't do the rate increases, but if you look at Eversource's increases, you know, energy affordability is all over the news. It's just an interesting point, and I'm sure you've seen it on the news as well. The private sector having reported skyrocketing profits while also doing the rate adjustments. So it's just, I thought that was an interesting tidbit. Not seen it?
So can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
But like, because the pendulum's like this, and it's a back and forth. So are they essentially just going to say, okay, they made these wild profits, now they're going to like do a credit in the next one, and then like sort of like the 6-month lag that comes, they'll come back and it'll be the cold winter, and they'll be like, hey, we need a rate adjustment, and then it's back over here again.
I don't think they give anything back.
Well, they do. They're forced by the PUC sometimes.
Well,
to
only
make
by virtue
credit.
they can only make a certain percentage.
Right. Right. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're handing it back. It'll be like they can make less next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and I mean, I just find it interesting. You look at the amount of zeros that are in there. But yes, you know, there's that element where you know, you make these rate adjustments, and then we talk energy affordability, which impacts some of the DPU orders and legislation we're working on, which is why I put it in here for context. Right, they're not looking at the root cause of energy affordability. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but if you look at our model, right, we very efficiently deliver services at a high level. Right here, you know, we're doing rate adjustments, but no one ever asked, well, if Eversource does this project, is it really supposed to cost that much? Like, why is it cost 10 times as much as if SELCO went in and installed the same overhead line? You know, I made that up, but you know, that type of model. And so that's where it's saying we need this rate increase to meet this level of expenditure, but no one ever actually dove in to say, is that level of expenditure appropriate? Which is the same on the next type of bullet point here, gas rate increase, you know, which helps us, you know, with the electrification effort. There's a 10% rate adjustment. I just think actually, just another quick editorial comment is, it just shows you, I mean, it's just crazy to me. I couldn't imagine, you know, going to someone and saying, hey, we're going to hold off your rates for 2 months, but then you're still going to owe us the money and we're going to charge you interest on it. It's like, I know they kind of went double back on that. That was a different headline from before. So it's a whole different approach. So anyway, I threw those on there, one for gas context and obviously one for just electric industry context there. So knowing folks also in, you know, in town have gas. So anyway, segueing from there, small scale solar panels, could see a breakout here in New England. This kind of caught my attention. You know, we've been talking about solar panels for a long time. This one is kind of fascinating, where I thought this was noteworthy more from a policymaking standpoint as well, where, is it only a matter of time where if you see, coming from the European market, solar panels that you can just drape over, say, a balcony, and you plug it into your 110 outlet, and all of a sudden now you're back feeding not through a meter, right? Not through solar panels. So this is now distributed solar through your vacuum cleaner outlet. So how do it's just, right, it's very preliminary, but again, in these things, it exists and it's real. And so it's one of those things that all of a sudden people start buying these on Amazon. And next thing you know, you're doing meter reads and they're all zero. Maybe it's.
Would this be like a better way for like renters?
That's a big one.
Right?
Yeah. And so if you look at that, it has introduced, like it's a now how does that impact terms and conditions? There's obviously code compliance and wire inspector involvement. So that's. Now it's Utah, but proposed legislation will remove those requirements and update electrical codes. So Utah has become the first state to formally allow plug-in solar last year. Yeah, cool. So it's pretty big in Europe. So, just something I thought is worth keeping on.
Well, the next thing they do is they'll put an adapter so it'll go into somebody's car cigarette lighter and you'll strap one of those bad boys on your roof.
Well, you see them on some of those like camper van.
Yes.
The whole roof is solar panel.
Cool. We have a couple sold, I think, on our splicing van, but some of our, power the equipment in the back of the van. But anyway, just not necessarily to go through all of these. I threw in battery storage. New England's largest battery storage opened up 175 megawatts. So that was pretty neat in Maine. So, just another data point, and technology is advancing there. I threw in a couple articles about nuclear energy, the role that plays. Again, in the interest of time, I didn't want to go through it all. But I thought I tried to throw in just, we've had that, we've had a cold winter and a snowy winter. Here we are. So energy, if you look at the energy mix, given the cold weather we've had, there's the DLE report from February 10th. Oil accounted for 35% of New England's power during peak generation. Burning trash and wood provided more electricity at peak than wind and solar. So it's just a point, as a talk about, we had a survey, we talk about data. It's just interesting to see during cold spells, as much as during our peak heat waves, where are our generating sources? How is the grid being powered? Like doing some of those statistics.
Hey, can we take a break? The question is, with the storm yesterday, we had a couple of small outages,
Yes.
but they were very small. And overall, I thought the town our team, SELCO, did a great job of maintaining, whether customer service finding out what was going on or getting people out there. But what we had one up in Deerfield, I guess, and then there was one down south on Chewillicage or something on Walnut that I guess a tree took out a limb. A limb took out some of the king. What happened to Deerfield? Was that a fuse or anybody know?
Actually, it was a blown lightning arrestor. So an instantaneous quick overall, but you guys on scene in about 20 minutes and everyone was back on in about an hour.
Yeah, that's impressive. When I was looking out the window, which I couldn't see because the snow had stuck to the screens, but you look pretty nasty. So to get out there and make that happen. But those were about the only two that,
Yeah, there's one other small one right at, actually, as we were coming in from the one on Deerfield, we heard the fuse blow on that felt that Daniel. But again, we walked out to that one and got it back in a few minutes, found the issue real quick, made sure it wasn't permanent, and we got that back.
yeah, I saw somebody, it's usually a snide remark about, oh geez, a tree that wasn't trimmed, does this, but when going, how many trees do we have? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars do we spend a year, and fighting neighbors who don't want trees
I
taken
was just
down?
gonna say, that's such a losing battle.
You're not gonna, some tree's gonna get you somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
but that overall is a super job.
Yeah, by the time end of this, we had no outages, so. And
Yeah,
actually,
so-
we're up contained to like 11 to 2 o'clock, give or take, and all wrapped up.
Yeah, I thought the Selco comms kid put a nice note out about about 2:30 or so, said that all the power outages had been corrected up to that time, so. Great job. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, they do a great job.
And internet didn't get affected, right? At all? Did we lose any internet?
Just because of the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, please. I'll throw
Sing
out.
out praises.
Yeah, exactly. No. Also, could spend the energy amount. So I try and keep an eye on what the different forecasts say for demand, not so much 5 years from now, but well beyond 20. Lighting got some funding, which is good. And then you can see wholesale electricity prices and demand. Just another data comparison. December 2025 up 55% compared to the previous year in terms of pricing. Again, just more context for rate adjustments. And last one, just as another interesting tidbit, in New Hampshire,
Also, leave ISO.
they want to leave ISO New England. They're going to study that. So, well,
And then what are they gonna take Seabrook with them?
I'm not quite sure how good the extension codes out, how you would. But I thought that would be an interesting read. Okay, moving on. I did want to get to an operational update, before we run out of time. But on the HR side, we just wanted to welcome 2 new apprentice line workers, Chase and Kyle. Kyle comes to us from Shrewsbury PD. So he's been in town, I think he's been there for over a decade. So he's been around for a while and he's looking for a career change. So we were able to snatch him up. So welcome to those 2.
Police chief's not now provide us any police protection anymore.
Yeah.
Type of recruitment.
Can't get details anymore for some reason.
You can do his own detail.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. I believe he was a detective.
And did you have to go, like, the apprentice line workers, like, is there, like, it's schooling to go through first?
It's a 4-year
like,
program right through, NEPA, that we send them up, they go once a month, I think it is, and after 4 years, they actually really certified. We've taken, I won't say we've taken a risk, but we really fully support that. We've been blessed, most of the graduates stay with us rather than taking that.
Great.
Yep, so that's great. We're actively, even including today after this meeting, interviewing for our electrical engineer and director of broadband positions. Just an interesting tidbit too, we did some active shooter training. Fascinating, unfortunately necessary, but that was an interesting training. And we're just continuing updating our.
Oh, you can't even go to a hockey game these days.
So let's see, We did survey information, just quickly going through this one. Yeah, want to get to the electric side of things. And we sent out notification letters on the rate adjustments, so that's in the customer section. Integrated resources, we had a roundtable hosted here back on February 17th on net metering policies. Again, talking about this solar, plug-in solar evolution, net metering evolution. So that's something just to let everyone know and keep, we're continuing to evaluate and make sure we update our policies to match modern needs. We're evaluating some grant opportunities, so that's good too. So and this is the one I did want to get to. The outage on 2.9. I think it would be important for this group to know what's going on this one. This is kind of,
It was a Centec.
yeah, this is kind of abnormal. So that outage on the 9th was caused by a substation transformer failure, which in and of itself tends to be rare. And so as you can see, I think part of this is in your theme of to give credit where credit is due, is this and most other systems would have been a catastrophic interruption in service. So we had kind of a Murphy's Law scenario. So Centec is one of our newer substations, or is it newest substation? I'll upgrade that statement. And so we have 215 kV transformers there tied to the transmission line. The first unit, a component, through inspection, we found that one of the components on the transformer was bad, so it was out of service for, we had a few more weeks to get the repair part in. The supply is challenging, and so we, in a routine manner, have two so they can back each other up. So we put the load on the second unit and took the first one out of service while repair parts come in. And then when that happens, you kind of cross your fingers, hoping nothing happens to the second unit that's bearing the load. Well, in this case, the second unit carrying the full load had what we now know is a catastrophic internal failure. So that hence the outage, because the first one was already out of pin service, the other one was having this failure. And so to add to the accolades to our team here, if you look at the timeline, in a matter of 2 hours, they were able to do field switching to the extent where they could shift the entirety of the load of the Centec substation to all the other basically raw substation and all other aspects of the town, which is, folks that probably don't know, is actually quite a feat. And bringing in some circuits that is slated for retirement that had no load. And the fact that they did this inside of 2 hours, I find to be exceptional. And so, basically, you can see it did impact 6,200 people for over 2 hours. And then, so really what the noteworthy point is, well, one, the restoration, not to downplay that, but two is now what comes next. So why this is meaningful is we have one transformer that the parts are due in pretty soon. We got those expedited.
We're just getting ready to do the work, just needs to be a clean, dry environment, not what we had.
Yeah, not ideal conditions to that repair, but the repair part is in to bring that transformer back up and shift it back. The bigger issue is this substation transformer that is 11 years old that failed, and they're supposed to last 50. are about a 4-year lead time. So it's like, what do you do for 4 years while this happens? And so we've been vetting all the different options, and essentially what we have included is, well, there's a lease option that, I'm trying to skim over some of the details, but, can you find a temporary lease arrangement? Or how does that compare to finding a spare unit somewhere that maybe we could procure? And so we vetted both options, and it looks like what we're trying to do is procure a spare transformer that that National Grid has in storage, only a few towns away. That will enable us to pull the existing unit off the pad, put the new one on. We'll obviously have to do some work to try, they're not one for one, so we're going to have to reconfigure the substation, busways and wiring to be compatible. But we'll have to do that in order to get that going before the summer comes. That outright purchase is substantially cheaper than a lease. So basically what we're looking at between temporary repairs, potentially, buying a new transformer in the long term, we're looking at probably somewhere in the ballpark, unanticipated $5 million expenditure. Now that's over the course of the whole thing. We hope to procure the transformer itself, the temporary one, if you will, for just under $800,000, plus there's labor. So that'll get us up and running, and then we could then decide what that long-term transformer procurement, over that 4-year supply chain window looks like. That temporary one will get us with the ability to serve load for definitely a 4-year window. And then what would be nice is if we can make that work, then we'll have a spare. I could back up overall substation failure. It obviously continue to back up a Centec failure. So that would be a nice investment to have regardless.
What size did you say it was?
I'm sorry, it's 115 kV unit. It's a 60 MVA transformer.
And there's no accountability for the original constructor of the transformer that blew up that it didn't live 20% of its life.
Yep.
Before it failed.
Great question. Similar to when you buy a car, it had a 10-year warranty. It's 8 year 11.
Yeah.
So we're looking at other options. Obviously we've engaged them and voiced our displeasure. So we're working through that. There's some moving parts there, but it's out of warranty.
Mm-hmm. Well, and National Grid is willing to part ways with it.
They have been extremely helpful, which is, I'm very appreciative of. It's just calling around, it's finding someone helpful who's willing to help, and they've been very helpful. They gave us a couple options. They have a mobile transformer that they're willing to lease that to us, but again, that was a shorter term. They need it for their purposes, so we can't, return it in August. It's going to go long. So this outright procurement, I think, would be the best option for us. And I guess my point is, all of this is going on behind the scenes, and no one really even knew. They saw a 2-hour outage.
Yeah.
That could have been a tree, it could have been a squirrel, but in reality, it was this fairly catastrophic substation transformer.
It could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse, and they've been really doing a great job to minimize that. So wanted to highlight those 2 points and give them credit. And so that's the update there. So we're working on that one. And at the same time, we have our routine work. So just the regular updates, AMI meter deployment, 14,500. So that's 88%. So we're plugging away at those. Our GIS survey is another big effort. They launched on the 17th. So we're going to have a full inventory and assessment system to be excellent. And then, on top of that, just shifting gears to cable real quick, fiber progress. You can see those nodes 50, 56, and 70. So fiber is progressing as well as the AMI project. And, the MDUs, you can see surveys and designs are ongoing for 14 MDUs. MDUs, I believe I'm not alone in thinking that they're the most challenging. So we're going to chip away at those as well. Good. I think that's really it, aside from, always, I'm sorry, always last on the list, which they worked hard on our meeting up and running, but the IT upgrades. So they help with the ERP, MPR, and multi-factor. And as you can see, we throw in their ticketing information, they do a great job and tickets are responded to very quickly. If they have a little shout out as well.
And they're still, and they're doing the fishing, testing and everything, they're not only for the SELCO, but for the town and so.
So again, another group behind the scenes doing a great job.
Great,
That's really
thank you. I think the next item that we have on the agenda is the correspondence, that the letter that we received from the town's Commission on Disabilities.
yes.
So I'll just give us a.
And the Evo box has easy access to get into SELCO stream. versus having to navigate on the Fire Stick to choose the app or anything. You just press the button on the remote to My TV.
Yeah.
It goes right to the.
Like that.
And sometimes it is difficult to get to the app.
Yeah,
You know, like that's the problem. Like, it's
Right,
like
on
you turn
the-
on, you turn on the TV and it's like, it goes to, it defaults to
your home
something else.
screen.
And then you're trying to get to, you know, the SELCO streaming, and it's like, you have to make sure, like, you know, is the box on, is the Evo box on, how do you get shut off? Like, it's like, it is, like, it's not, I'm challenged by it, not that I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Sounds great.
it's difficult. I can only imagine. I know, I actually know how difficult it is for other
Yeah.
to get to it.
Well, even voice activation, I mean, we're not really big on that right now, right?
It will be coming. We're testing it right now for voice, go to channel 34, that type of thing.
Like, I think the challenge is just getting, like, once you get it up, it's fine. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's just getting it
Yeah.
on your screen to
As
work with.
long as the audio is sale proof, so
As well.
it's sale proof, so half my swears don't go through.
Yeah.
Shut the place down. Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, the folks in the Commission for Disabilities, I think we should also go back and ask them specifically. They said there was numerous issues that they had. I'd like to have a list from them of who they are so that we can reach out personally to each of those individuals to see if we can't resolve those things rather than just do the peanut butter spread and try to guess who or how we can solve those issues so they could work with us in conjunction. I also noted that on social media that the town, I believe of Boylston, has now published a thing looking for feedback customers on their internet accessibility and being able to do that. And so I think every community is been trying to address this sort of issue that, okay, we've got the, mainstream folks pretty well camped down, but we really got to work on the fringes to help those folks that are probably most in need. And especially when the survey says that the 65 and older crowd is our biggest customers, so we really need to be reaching out to them. Not that they're the only disabled. Anyways, okay. Well, with that said, anybody else got anything else last minute? Good, positive, negative? No? Sure. Okay. We have, it looks like that the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 8 a.m. Hopefully SMC will be able to shovel themselves out.
Right.
We'll be able to connect it. And if everybody's in agreement, that's when the next meeting should be held. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Shut down.